Hello everyone, and welcome to another game I played on Ptcgo. As you saw this match, I'm actually favored to lose, or not favored to win, in other words. In this game I'm going to be trying out a deck suggested by user C. Mangaredo. I've actually done a few of his suggestions in the past. So this deck is actually Kyurem, Blastoise, Lugia, and Keldeo tossed in for good measure. And I'm going to start off with Lugia, which is the worst start possible essentially for this deck. You want to open up with Kyurem. It's the Outrage variety, not Plasma Kyurem. And just glaciate as soon as possible, either by waiting 2-3 turns and attaching, or by deluging on with Blastoise. Once you've hit sufficient damage on the bench, then you start cleaning up with Lugia and using his attack for 120 to just take 3 prizes if it's an EX and 2 prizes if it's a regular non-EX Pokemon. So my opponent here is starting off with a Chatot. I really have no clue what type of deck it is. He also played a Sharon, which is not a card I normally see. So here I'm going to attach a Water Energy onto Lugia. I will Ultra Ball 2 things away just to get myself a Squirtle. I do want Blastoise in play as soon as possible. And unfortunately here I'm going to have to Juniper, tossing a Dowsing Machine away, which is kind of an important card. And then I'm just going to end my turn. I don't really get anything all that helpful, but I don't know, a lone Chatot start doesn't look all that great on my opponent's side of the field either. And I think he's going to take a while here, and this video is actually sped up, and I did cut and paste or cut sections out, so if you see any skipping around, it's that. And if it seems a little fast, it's that reason as well. So my opponent here, he was actually in kind of a bind. He had 3 Juniper and 2 Biancas in his hand here in terms of supporters. So I sort of say ouch, because it's kind of a painful thing. You either Juniper away your hand and remain supporterless for your turn, or you do something else. It looks like my opponent here is going to play a Skyla instead, and he goes for the Ultra Ball. So here, he's really in danger of me just taking the win next turn if he doesn't play anything else. If I can evolve into Blastoise and get a Plasma Energy onto Lugia, then I can just win outright. But it looks like he will bench something here. So hopefully that'll prevent that from happening, and he sort of messaged me there further to indicate that this might be a short game. So he's actually sending up Lillipup. So it's a Herdier deck, and this isn't all. There's actually more to it, as you guys will see later on in the match. And he seems resigned that he's going to lose, but my hand's pretty terrible here. I have the option of playing a Chorus or an N, and I play the N. I know that'll help him out since his hand seems to be terrible. And so I'm just messaging here, maybe you're not done. So I do get a rare candy Blastoise. Unfortunately, I have no energy to deluge onto it. I draw into both of my floatstones, but I don't quite need it yet. Ideally, you want to attach them onto Keldeo, so you can rush in and retreat and switch off your attackers as needed, or get out of status conditions with no cost. So here I'm just checking out Lillipup. I don't normally play with against decks with Herdier, so here at this point I'm not really aware of what it does. My opponent benches a Virizion, so that's his energy accelerator here. He plays an Enhance Hammer and then a Crushing Hammer. He's able to discard my Plasma Energy, but my Water Energy remains on board. And Chatot is still in the active spot. Not quite sure if he just uses it to confuse, since his first attack can do that. But otherwise, I don't really see the point. But maybe that's me. So here I'm just looking through my resources. We've both spent about roughly an equal amount of supporters at this point. I'm just sort of conscious of that because I know he said his 1 chorus was prized earlier. So I know he may have potentially less supporters than I do. He's going to Ultra Ball into a Herdier and send it up into the active spot. So here I actually realized what Herdier does. So its ability prevents any supporter cards from being played on your opponent's side of the field. So I desperately need a supporter, so I'm going to use that escape rope to send something else in the active spot. I did attach a flow zone onto Blastoise, so I can just retreat back into Lugia. I play that Chorus, I get a water energy, and that's about it, since I only got 3 cards off of Chorus. My opponent here is going to Skyla, undoubtedly for a Juniper, or maybe an N if, I don't know, he has a severe lapse in judgment, or needs it for something else. And we do see a Juniper. I get a Keldeo, but again, not anything more than that, so I'm just going to pass and hope my opponent doesn't get anything going too quickly. So we see a Juniper, and I'm just checking his discard pile, since those clips were a little bit adjusted since he was taking a while. So he's going to attach a Virizion. He's going to attach 2 Virizion. He still doesn't have enough energy to attack, but he only attaches to retreat into Herdier. So I, once again, cannot play supporters. I do finally get a Kyurem out in play. Unfortunately, it's not powered up, and it's not in the active. My opponent attaches another energy onto Herdier, and at this point, I think he has a DCE and a Grass energy, which means he can start attacking me, potentially. I think his attack, Wild Charge, will do 90, with the potential of damaging himself on a coin flip, I think. My opponent plays a Juniper, and we see a Hypnotoxic Laser, which isn't good. He might be able to take me out. But then he plays an Aspertia City Gem, so that actually ends up helping me as well. I get the added HP along with most of his Pokemon. So he hits me, and I'm not knocked out, which I'm thankful for. But he will be able to take me out next turn if I don't do something. And I decide against rushing in. I don't want him to take out Keldeo, since I think he's a better attacker here just because it hasn't taken damage yet. So we see a Thundurus EX, the non-EX for the non-plasma variety. And here all my opponent needs to do is attack me. He might start powering up that Thundurus he just played. But we do see a Skyla for another Juniper. So at this point, I think my opponent will have used all of his Juniper. So he hits Lugia for the knockout. I'm going to send a Blastoise to the active just because it has a Hypnotoxic Laser. And here I managed to get into a Superior Energy Retrieval, which is a great thing right now. I'm just going to play it, get back those 2 water energies I just sent into the discard pile. And I'm going to attach them onto Kyurem. So I can start glaciating, which is a strategy you want to lead off with. So I will glaciate everything on his side of the field for 30, and if I do this, hopefully I can draw to another Lugia and just start cleaning his side of the field up. But right now I'm in a really bad spot, because if I get a supporter, I can't play it, and I desperately need to get a supporter, so all I can really hope for is him playing an N. But he does rare candy into a second Herdier, so that again is going to further disrupt me. But here my opponent's going to play a Max Potion on his active Herdier, clearing off all the damage. And then he plays a Juniper, and his deck is down to 9 cards. So that's one promising sign. I am losing on prizes, but he is much closer to decking himself out than winning outright at this point. So we see a switch into Virizion, which I'm happy to see. And I managed to top deck an N, and now I can play it since Herdier is out of the active. I'm going to attach a water energy onto Keldeo and just glaciate everything again for 30. So at this point, some of his Pokemon will be 1 glaciate away from getting knocked out. But he uses Hypnotoxic Laser, I go to sleep, and I'm poisoned. I think I can get Chat out next turn if I can glaciate. That's a big if at this point, since I am asleep. But it looks like my opponent will be attacking me for 50 and attaching 2 Grass Energy from the discard, from his deck actually, sorry. And I'm not sure what he's going to power up. He might go for Thundurus, he might go for Lugia, for Herdier. But I do stay asleep, unfortunately, and I draw a Lugia. But I can play a Chorus, and this is a great Chorus to get because I managed to get 4 energies off of my top deck, and I'm going to attach them onto Keldeo, well, at least 2 of them, since it already has 1, so I can rush in and retreat, and it will attach a few more of them to Lugia. And actually I'm thinking here that it might be better to just rush in and attack. So here I'm just going to Secret Sword for 90, or for 70 since he's resistant to water. Or, I'm sorry, no, it was actually 90. I should have done 110, but I only did 90 because he's resistant to water. And now my opponent does undoes quite a bit of that by playing just a gold potion. And we see a Sharon for 3. So at this point, he placed Tool Scrapper, preventing me from just sending up Blastoise for free retreat. But he will be able to hit me for 100 if he keeps it in the keeps Virizion in the active, which he does. And he's slowly but surely powering up that Thunderous. It looks like he's attached to energy, so with one more he can do 100 damage. So now Keldeo is in the active spot. I decided to keep it there, I think. It's probably the best play here. I play that Juniper, and I get an escape rope. So this actually gives me a new out. I can play escape rope, and depending on what he sends in, I might want to retreat into a Kyurem or a Lugia. I'm not quite sure, but either way I can just rush back in with Keldeo and knock it out potentially, since I think his Herdiers, at least one of them, is within knockout range. So he does send up Herdier, the one that is less damage, so I'm just going to send up Kyurem to glaciate everything, hitting everything on the bench for 30. And that is to knock out Chatot, and I take my first prize this way. So he's still leading me by 1 prize, but he can't really do anything, so he passes. Going into my turn, I put down another Keldeo. I am attaching slowly to Lugia. I do have a plasma energy onto it. I rush in with Keldeo and I knock out the active Herdier and take my second prize. And now we're tied. Unfortunately, he does send up a Thunderous, or sorry, Tornadus. Since it's Tornadus, I do get those guys mixed up. And he's going to hit me for 100 and the knockout. So here I'm just going to send up Lugia. I have enough energy on it to go for the knockout, but first I'm going to use Superior Energy Retrieval, discarding a Squirtle and a Rare Candy, and I will be able to get back 3 water energy. I'm going to attach those to Keldeo, just so I can have a backup attacker ready to go in case he somehow manages to knock out Lugia, but I don't think that that'll be an immediate possibility since Lugia is not weak to grass as Keldeo is. And I'm also going to Ultra Ball just to thin my deck and check things out, and I notice I don't have any water energy left, so the only way I will get more will be through my prizes or through my discard pile. So here I'm just going to Plasma Gale for 120, the knockout, and take 3 prizes. So I'm hoping one of these is a water energy, and it is, so I'm looking like I'm in a good position here. So he sends up Virizion, and since I have that water energy in hand, I can take the win right now since he's unable to knock out Lugia. And that'll be game. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this deck that was suggested by a user. Have a good day.